Basically an empty hall. That's far, that's good. And so I just posted up one of these cocktail, rounds. Kristen eventually came in there and was, with it. And these two people, like, there's all kinds of places to go to. They just came right up. Introduce yourself. How you doing, Kristen? And the filter. And eventually, I said, well, what do you guys do? And he tells me, and then he is still speaking. And she is the duty of Hill County. Oh, really? And he's like, that's right. That's our state representative. And I said, I've got a client who's takers. And his name's Brian Harrison. I shit you. This woman is pale. She became translucent. The blood drained from her. And less than a minute, gone. Like, her face, went from, we were smiling and having an easy conversation, dead inside. And homeboy wasn't far behind her. And I was just like, what's your receipt? Very busy.
I've heard of you.
Pictures.
Hey, Helen.
Hey, sir.
Like, he'll be here.
Oh, you're recording right now?
Yeah.
Great.
Actually, it's really cool. I'm from the area that
Okay, thank you.
It is. It's a suburb of Philadelphia. Yes, yeah. They say that anything can be a suburb. Yeah, it is. That's I'm from Arlington. So what's high school there? That's exactly. Very good. Okay. What did you study when you were engineering?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Kimball. I'm the mayor of Joshua. I want to thank you all for coming out today. Our lovely brand new, just opened business here. Oh, why not? Was so gracious to host this for us. We are excited about what's going on. There is a duty and a responsibility as citizens to get out and vote, but you've got to make informed decisions when you vote. This is a chance for you to get to know some of the people that you might be voting for. Thank you for coming. At this time, I want to turn it over to Helen Kerwin.
Thank you so much. And Mayor, thank you for letting us use this beautiful venue in your beautiful town. I've been knocking on a lot of doors in Joshua and just some of the greatest people for this campaign. So I thank you, Mayor Kimball. For those of you that don't know me, I am running to be hopefully your next and your new state representative for District 58. Thank you. And I ran on 3 issues. I've added a couple since then because the citizens in the district have really brought awareness, especially to the property tax situation. My main 3 issues, I'm going to make it fast because I'm going to do something a little different today with this. Of course, we all know the border. We know we have got to finish the wall, remain in Mexico, catch and deport. We know that with last Sunday's vote in D.C., where $95 million was awarded to Ukraine and Israel, and our border did not get 1 penny. So I'm going to talk to you a little about that later to see what we can do about it. My next issue is empowering parents for school choice. I am all about families having a choice in making decisions for their kids, their students, on their education. I believe educational opportunities need to be broad, and I think that families need to get involved. I know that the House Bill 1 did not make it through this session. There will be another one, and hopefully it'll be better, and we will all be able to support that. And then my third issue is eliminate property taxes. Well, I've had a lot of questions on that, and I want you to know that I'm learning about it. I'm ready to jump on board if you elect me. I have seen seniors being taxed out of their homes. I've seen young families, they're not able to even buy a home. So I want you to know that that is now one of my biggest issues. But right now, I want to tell you a little about what happened last Sunday and why I want to introduce you to a speaker who just introduced Contract with Texas, which I think will change and will finally make our Texas State House of Representatives red again and conservative again. We know that Operation Lone Star with our great Governor Abbott was successful in Shelby Park. I flew down to Del Rio. I went to Shelby Park. I talked to the Border Patrol. The biggest thing I learned from going down there is that the bill, which would have created a Texas protection unit for our border protection, was killed, along with the 7 other conservative priority bills because of Democratic chairs, Democratic, liberal-leaning representatives in our House. We have got to stop that. We have got to elect our speaker in caucus. I'm a firm believer in that, and I think that we have to make sure that we vote in this election, not for a single issue. I'm asking you to consider voting for our conservative future to secure our House of Representatives. We need to go back to the basics. We need it to be operating and functional and productive and true to our Texas conservative values. So consider that when you're polling. I know there's a lot of you that may have a single issue that is the most important of all. This election is so, so important. So I want to introduce you now to Representative Brian Harrison. We have have this out for y'all when you came in. Did any of you happen to pick it up and read it yet? Well, okay, we're going to have it out for you and pass it out when you all leave today. Representative Harrison is the one responsible for this contract. And when he talks about it, you will see how important it is and how successful, hopefully, it will be. And our House of Representatives will be truly Republican in November.
Howdy! Come on, I'm not the only Aggie here. I said howdy. All right. It is so great to be with you today, and I wanted to start off by saying the two most important words I'm going to say the whole time I'm up here, and that's thank you. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the state of Texas. You could be any number of places, but you're not. You're here. You're supporting somebody because you know, and I know, that we need people like Helen Kerwin if we're going to have a chance of saving this state and this country, right? We need to get Helen Kerwin in the Texas House of Representatives. And I hate to even phrase things the way I just phrased it, like if, say it as a question, if we're going to save this state and if we're going to save this country. But ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell it, I hate to break it to you. These days, that is a question. And let me tell you, I think that our country is worth fighting for. I think our country is worth saving. I think Texas is worth fighting for. Amen? Do you believe that? So, I had the privilege, before I was elected to the Texas House, of serving under President Trump as his chief of staff at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And I could be here for the next hour talking about the great, tremendous, historic victories that I was honored to help him achieve, like putting Title 42 in place to lock down our border and allow for the immediate deportation of illegal aliens. That's a good thing. Glad for that. But also, we kept our word to the unborn. We did something Republicans had promised to do but didn't do, and we defunded Planned Parenthood for the first time in 50 years. But as great as those things are, actually, let's take a second. How many of you, let me know if this is true, are ready to get an America First president back in the White House? I never could have imagined. I worked in the Trump administration until noon, January 20th, 2021. I knew it was going to be bad when Joe Biden took over. I never could have imagined how much damage and destruction he could cause in just 3 years, right? Guys, it is incumbent, especially while we don't have the White House, that states resume the sovereign place that our Constitution said. The federal government, guys, is not there to lord over and be the boss of the states. Under our Constitution, the states are sovereign. The federal government works for us. And one of the core responsibilities of the federal government is to secure that border, right? But he hasn't done it, right? We left in the most secure border in modern history. All Joe Biden had to do to keep that border secure was what? Go back to the basement and take a nap, right? That border would be secure if Joe Biden was sleeping for the last 3 years. Okay? Now let me tell you, all of the historic victories we were able to achieve for the American people on taxes, on spending, on deregulation, on border security, on our commitments to the unborn, all of those things that we did, we had to battle a coalition in the D.C. swamp. And let me tell you who makes up that coalition. It's the radical leftist Marxist Democrats. It's their mouthpieces in the mainstream media. And here's number 3, and perhaps the worst of them all. Weak establishment liberal Republicans, right? And let me tell you, after I came home to Texas, I was so honored. There was a special election. I ran for the Texas House of Representatives. I was so honored to be elected, to be the voice for freedom and the fighter for liberty for my friends and neighbors back in Ellis County, Texas, which is where I'm from. I was so excited after having battled the D.C. swamp with President Trump for years to lock arms with all of my new colleagues in the Texas House, because I believed that every elected Republican in the state of Texas wanted to fight against the swamp as hard as we did in the Trump administration. I assumed they were going to fight for liberty, fight for freedom, fight for the next generation, damn the cost, right? Holy cow, was I wrong. What did I find out when I get elected to the Texas House? I look around. Oh my goodness, the Democrats are running the joint. They are. It was hard for me to believe. It's probably hard for you to believe because you say, wait a second, Brian, what do you mean the Democrats are running the Texas House? The Republicans have a huge majority in the Texas House. And you're right, they do. Republicans have a huge majority in the Texas House. You, the voters, have given Republicans the governor's mansion, the lieutenant governor's office, massive majorities in the Texas Senate, a massive majority in the Texas House, and every statewide elected official. You voted for Republican governance. You deserve real Republican governance. And people talk about the swamp in D.C., and I'd be the first to tell you that's the biggest swamp on earth. But let me tell you something. So as somebody who has done battle in both the D.C. swamp and now the Austin swamp, there is nothing swampier, and I mean nothing swampier, than people who run for office with an R by their name. They look you in the eye and say, vote for me, because if you elect me, I will go to the Capitol, and I will fight those radical Democrats, and I will protect liberty for the next generation. I will stand up to the Marxist Democrats. But then the second they get elected, they go down into the basement of the Capitol, and they vote to put the radical Democrats in charge, and then they collude with them to destroy your liberty. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the coalition that's currently running the Republican-dominated Texas House of Representatives. Let me give you just a couple examples. Our liberal speaker, Dave Phelan, and his liberal lieutenants, like somebody named Dwayne Burns, they voted on multiple occasions. This is not a joke. You can look in the House Journal. Dwayne Burns voted not just once, but 2 times to put radical, open borders, anti-Second Amendment, BLM activist, radical Democrats as powerful committee chairman of the Texas House. It's true. And let me tell you some of the committees they control. You might think maybe these aren't important committees. What do you think about our business committee? Industry, transportation, natural resources, public education. Get this one. All crime law in the state of Texas runs through a BLM activist Democrat. While radical Democrats, rogue DAs, are exercising this lawfare across the country, trying to throw people like Donald Trump in prison, trying to throw people like, Ken Paxton in prison. When Democrats are practicing this lawfare against Republicans in Texas, the liberal failed leadership of the Texas House of Representatives put a radical BLM-supported Democrat in charge of all crime law in the state of Texas. Let me tell you how bad it is, too. Let me ask you this question, but you're not going to know the answer. Who's the most powerful person in the Texas House of Representatives? You don't know. You might say Dave Phelan. You're wrong. The most powerful person in the Texas House of Representatives? Oh, we got somebody in the front row, straight A student. He knew the answer. Take it from the Attorney General of the state of Texas. The most powerful person in the Texas House is somebody you don't know. He's somebody who was elected by nobody, yet he has more power than anybody in the Texas House. Who is he? Well, his name is Hugh Brady. Who is Hugh Brady? Hugh Brady is an Austin, Texas Democrat Party activist, and get this, a Barack Obama White House lawyer. I'm going to say this just one more time, a little slower, so you can understand what I'm saying, because you need to know this. I wish I could come here today and tell you everything's amazing in Austin, but that would be a lie. As we speak, and you deserve the truth, how many believe Texans deserve the truth from their elected officials? Yeah, even when it's uncomfortable, you deserve the truth. You know why? Because we work for you. People like Helen Kerwin will work for you. That's right. But as we speak, right now, a Barack Obama staffer is controlling the Republican-dominated Texas House of Representatives. It is time we end that foolishness. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Texans. We believe in freedom. We believe in liberty to our core. We've got to get both our state and our federal government back to the basics, to the principles that made our state great, our country great, the principles of individual liberty, freedom. Governments that are constrained in their power by the limits placed on it by both our federal and our state constitutions, secure borders. And to do that, ladies and gentlemen, I need people like Helen Kerwin to join me in the Texas House of Representatives. And let me tell you how I know she's serious. That document that she held up that I folded in my pocket here, it's called the Contract with Texas. People mock conservatives in the Texas House. You're going to hear from the Attorney General in a minute. He's going to tell you more about how real conservatives are treated in the Texas House. You need to hear this. Listen closely when he talks, okay? Helen Kerwin was willing to do something that many people in Austin, in the swamp, would tell her, Helen, don't do this. Okay, you're going to ruin your legislative career before it even starts. Helen, you cannot sign a document that says we're not going to put the Democrats in charge. Helen signed it anyway. Helen is committed to making the Texas House Republican again. Not just Republican in name only, but actually Republican.
Thank you, Helen.
Yes, no, it's so important. And guys, I've been traveling all over the state along with our great Attorney General, our Governor, Senator Ted Cruz, and let me tell you, voters' eyes have been opened like never before. Let me give you a couple policy implications here. One of the silver linings of COVID, and there are very few, but one of the silver linings of COVID was that parents' eyes were awakened across our country like never before to what's going on in the classroom. And we had wave after wave, state after state, over 33 states now, empowering their parents with some kind of education freedom. Let their parents choose where to send their kid to school. Well, what happened in the Texas House? The Texas Senate passed it 4 times. What happened in the Texas House on school choice? Not only did we not pass school choice, our failed liberal leader and his lieutenants passed a budget that makes school choice illegal in the state of Texas. Is there anything we should be doing right now more important than securing that border while Joe Biden won't do it? Let me tell you about something Helen mentioned a minute ago. HB 20. I was a joint author of this bill. It would have created our own border protection unit to do the job that Joe Biden won't do. Well, what happened to that bill? That bill was killed personally by our speaker, Dave Phelan. You know why he killed it? He didn't even let us debate it. If the bill didn't come up to a vote and fail, Dave Phelan agreed with a radical Democrat's ticky-tacky, hyper-technical objection to the bill, and he and his Barack Obama staffers stood up and said, I sustain this Democrat's objection. The bill is dead. And he waited until the deadline to do it, to guarantee that we wouldn't be able to take bold action to secure the border. He stopped us from banning COVID vaccine mandates for students. I bet you don't know that. Thanks to Dave Phelan, the state of Texas has still not banned COVID vaccine mandates for our precious students, for the next generation, for future doctors and nurses. That's not because of the Democrats. It's because of people who have an R by their name. And let me know if you think that if you've got a Republican by your name, that should mean something. And let me tell you, somebody who I know, that's going to mean something when she's down there, because Helen, you're going to have to make this choice. And you know this, Helen. Every elected official, no matter how senior or junior you are, you have to make a choice. Here's the choice. You are either going to be popular in the swamp, or you're going to fight like hell and do the right thing for the next generation. Helen Kerwin's going to make the right choice and fight for the next generation. Okay. Now, this is a really cool part of the program. I get to introduce somebody I don't usually get to introduce, okay? I mentioned at the top of my little talk here that I had the real honor of working for President Trump in Washington and D.C. That's true, right? I'm super excited and humbled for the opportunities I had up there. But maybe one of the things I valued the most and the most excited about were the friends I made. And the real excitement about my time in D.C. isn't that I got to work for President Trump. That was cool, but I got to work with somebody named Brooke Rollins. Okay, how many of you know Brooke Rollins? Brooke Rollins, okay. Brooke, come on up the stage. I'm going to introduce you. So Brooke is a former colleague of mine, Director of Domestic Policy in President Trump's White House, daughter of our candidate. And before I hand the microphone, you're going to get mad at me, Brooke. I got to tell a quick story about your mom that involves you. Hey, just real quick, okay? Guys, when I found out that Brooke Rollins, my colleague and friend's mom, was running for the State House, I said, I got to get to know her. So Helen and I had a long, maybe we were on the phone for an hour or so. And I said, okay, Helen. It was a great conversation. She was saying all the right things. I said, here's my real test. I said, I loved working with Brooke Rollins in the White House so much, but I got to know, Brooke is a movement conservative. She wants to protect liberty for the next generation. Helen, where are you, philosophically with Brooke? Are you as conservative as Brooke? You know what she said? They're both going to get mad at me for this. She goes, Brian, compared to me, my daughter Brooke is a squish. And I laughed and I said, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you elected to the Texas House of Representatives. But ladies and gentlemen, somebody who I do not believe is a squish, but my friend and the person who has probably done more, other than President Donald J. Trump himself, to protect the America First movement in our country. Please join me in welcoming Brooke Rollins.
Brian Harrison. Well, hello, Joshua, on a Wednesday. I am so amazed at this incredible turnout. My dear friend Ken Paxton is in the house. How about a big welcome for Ken? I'm only going to take a little bit of time because I am not the star of the show. A.G. Paxton is a little bit of the star of the show, but the real star is my awesome mama, Helen Kerwin. How about a big round of applause for her? And also the star of the show, my smoking hot husband, Mark Rollins, who's here. Yes. And my slightly, but also amazing and smoking hot brother-in-law, Scott Hubert, is here, standing over here. We're also happy to be in Joshua, Texas today. Y'all, thank you so much for coming out. What a righteous, amazing, cause that is to get the Texas House of Representatives back to aligning with the values of the people of Joshua and Cleburne and Glenrose and Burleson. I grew up in Glenrose, Texas. I'm a proud 1990 graduate of that amazing high school. We played football against Joshua, played football against Burleson, played baseball. I was a future farmer of America. We competed against the FFA kids from all of these small towns around here. But let me tell you, when I very unexpectedly got the call to join President Donald J. Trump. By the way, any Trump fans? Any MAGA fans? Oh, yeah. I talked to him this morning, and obviously he is in the battle of the fight for what we all perhaps would say is his life, but what he would say is thereafter all of us, he's just standing in the way. And so everything they're throwing at him in New York, everything they're throwing at him in Georgia, everything they're throwing at him in Florida, he is strong. He has the heart of a lion. I have never seen anyone more girded for the battle than Donald J. Trump. And I say that because it's really important to understand that while he is fighting the battle of his life, Ken has fought as well many of the same battles that Trump is fighting now, that at the end of the day, unless we have a Brian Harrison and a Helen Kerwin and other great real America First conservatives who will stand against the uniparty, whether they are Republican or Democrat, who will say no more to bigger government, to higher taxes, to unsecuring the border. Unless we have people like Brian and my mom in the Texas House, Donald Trump and this next White House, when he wins, can do everything we possibly can. But without those back home who are at the guardian, who truly are the guardians at the gate for liberty and for freedom, then all of that work and all of that fight and all of that effort in Washington will be for nothing. Because I think you all realize this, and you know it down in your soul, that we really are in a battle for the soul of America. That people want to stop having borders, want to allow millions of people in. They want to create these endless wars internationally. They don't care about the small business owner anymore. They certainly don't care about people like us in Joshua and Glenrose and Burleson. All they care about is coalescing their power and having the opportunity to basically make decisions for you, rather than what our founders of this country envisioned was the opportunity to govern ourselves. And that's the real battle that we are in today. And in all the years I've been doing this, again, from Glenrose, Texas to Texas A&M, and eventually moving into Washington to the last White House with President Trump, I have never seen a country that is more divided, that has more at stake than what we have today. And I'll finish with this, and then ask Attorney General Paxton to come to the podium. When you think about the year 1766, 10 years before we declared independence from the greatest power the world had ever known, and that was England, George Washington was a farmer. Thomas Jefferson was a teacher and a student. John Adams was 13. He was so shy, his parents wrote in the journal that year that they didn't think he'd ever amount to anything. James Madison had literally just recently finished high school and was trying to figure out whether he would continue his education. So a teacher, 2 students, and a farmer. 10 years later, this group of arguably ordinary Americans, but with a heart lit for liberty, would declare independence from the greatest power this world has ever known. And in so doing, create the greatest country ever known to man, where people could govern themselves, not an elitist monarchy or dictatorship. 10 years later, we know what the rest of the story looks like. But in 1766, they were just average Americans, a single mom from Glenrose, Texas, a businessman who happened to grow up around here, a mom of 4, an energy CEO, just average everyday Americans. But when they came together with, again, their heart lit for liberty and with the encouragement of God who's standing beside us, that nothing can defeat us, nothing can stand us down, and that ultimately we will win for freedom, for liberty, and for ultimately the world, then we can't be defeated. And that's where we are today. So God bless you all for being here and for being the Americans that will stand up and stand in the gap and fight for what we know is right. So speaking of that, please help me welcome to the stage Attorney General Ken Paxton. when I was in the Oval Office, by the way, this friendship goes back 20 plus years, and partnership. But when I was in the Oval Office and when I would often speak with President Trump about what was at stake and what we had to do and how the attorneys general, the AGs across the country were really the ones who were fighting for everyday Americans, average Americans, all the people of this community and others, the one person he would always say that we needed to call was Attorney General Ken Paxton. And what a joy for me to have represented and been in that Oval Office and been in that West Wing, but have personally known the man that we continue to rely on time and time and time again. Ken, thank you for being here. Thank you for never giving up when most others would have. Thank you for supporting my amazing mom, and thank you for continuing this righteous fight for liberty. Ken Paxton, everybody.
Well, I have a story to tell about Brooke, but not yet. My daughter, Abby, who was a Baylor grad, was an ROTC at Baylor, went into the Air Force, decided she wanted to be an intelligence officer and in Special Forces, and then spent 6 years in the Army with 2 tours in Afghanistan, and then left when she had a little girl, our granddaughter, Aurora Joy Rose, and now she lives in California with her husband, who is still in the Air Force. He was a Naval Academy grad. He switched over to Special Forces. And she always tells me, Dad, I'm thinking you are living your best life. And I want you to know today I am living my best life because, 1, I'm in Joshua, Texas. 2, I get to be here to support Helen. What are the odds? Your mother, I didn't even know that at first. And it's just, given our history, we started together in politics in 2003. And got in trouble about the same time in 2005 when we were somewhat, we were frustrating tax plans by Republicans leadership. And she nearly got fired and I nearly got kicked out of office. So we go way back fighting. And then, of course, when she was at the White House, and I had meetings back in the day when Trump was there, I went to Washington probably once every 5-6 weeks. I don't go a lot anymore. But when I went, when I was at the White House, I'd always go by her office and she'd always make sure I had breakfast. So I always wanted to make sure I saw Brooke. She is an amazing person. And what you're doing for America right now is, people don't know what the kind of work that she put in. And Mark, thank you for letting her do it because it's really crucial work if we're going to save this country. And then, of course, for me, being in Joshua is special because my sister, Robin Helen, is here and she lives in Joshua with her daughter, Zoe. And by the way, they're both voters, and they have lots of kids who vote. So I want to thank you both for coming because I just realized it was in Joshua like a day or two ago, and I invited her, and they came. So thank you all for being here. So Brian, to you also, just thank you for this guy has been everywhere. He doesn't get paid for this. Even the pay is what, $600 a month?
Exactly.
And he's doing all of this work. I see him everywhere, out campaigning for people all over the state, trying to change the Texas House. And I'm going to talk about why that matters so much. But I also, what are the odds, Brooke? I also talked to Donald J. Trump this morning, and he seemed like he was in a great mood. And I think I'm going to be connecting with him this week. But you're right. He's an amazing person. And I actually have been amazed when I've actually asked him the question, how do you deal with this? And I won't term it exactly, since we're in a big audience, how he put it to me. Because I was alone with him, and he said, I basically just don't care. I'm just going to keep fighting. And he didn't say it exactly that way. So, and he didn't hesitate when he said that. So, 2003, the Republicans took over the Texas House for the first time since Reconstruction. That was where Brooke and I met. And it was amazing. What we accomplished the first session, I was excited. I thought, wow, this is the way it's supposed to be. I walked out of that session just feeling great about Texas, about Republicans. And 6 years later, President Obama won. Not Texas, but he won the presidency. And in doing so, we went from having 86 Republicans and 64 Democrats to 76 Republicans and 74 Democrats. And if you'll remember, Brooke, we held on to that seat. Otherwise, we would have been tied. We held on to that seat by 20 votes, may have been 12. And so we thought we had it. And then 11 Republicans, moderate Republicans, went out by themselves. They self-proclaimed themselves the Cardinals. Why were they the Cardinals? because they were going to team up with the 74 Democrats, and they were going to pick from among themselves who the speaker was, and the Cardinals picked the Pope, and they viewed themselves as like the Cardinals picking the Pope. And out of that group came Joe Strauss, and out of that, it was more significant than we ever knew, because it wasn't just a one-time deal. The Democrats then figured out from then on, if we block vote, we control the Texas House. And so, Brian's running, he gets in the Republican majority, he's thinking this is going to be great, just like I thought. It's going to be great. We have the majority. It's going to be great. And then you find out right when you get there, you have a choice, Helen, to make. Am I going to represent my constituents and take care of the state of Texas, the people of Texas, or I'm going to do what I'm told, and then I get to be moved up? And there's this thing that I've watched, and I call it perceived power versus real power. And you have to decide which one you want. So perceived power is, hey, Brian, we need you to vote for this. And you say, well, I don't think I really want to vote. That's not good for me. We really need you to vote for this. You want to be committee chairman. If you want to get your bills passed, if you want to do good things for your constituents, Brian, we need you to vote for this bill. And then you go, it's really important that I do good things for you. So I'm going to vote, even though this one bill is not very good. Well, then they make him committee chairman. He votes for a few more things like that. Because really, if you want to do something that matters, if you want to be significant down there, if you want to have a title, if you want to make sure that they give you the money you need to run, if you want to be liked and talked to and not be dirt and not have all your bills killed, well, of course, I want to help my constituents. I've got to be important. I've got to have this committee assignment. So guess what, Brian? You end up voting for a lot of really bad stuff because now you're committee chairman.
So to be clear, I didn't vote for that.
No, I'm about to say that. I was in the legislature for 12 years, Brian. I never was committee chairman. Never. Because you don't care. You don't care. What you care is that we go and represent you. And so these people get fooled into thinking that they've got real power. What they have is perceived power because they're told what to do, but everybody thinks they're powerful. Brian has real power because he controls his vote, which is what they want. They'll do anything to get his vote. That's where the power is. So, Brian, congratulations on holding on to real power for your constituents. So, we have been losing. The Democrats have done this every session. And the Republicans, whoever the Democrats took the side, this time Dave Phelan. Why? Because Dave gave them the most. He killed border security. He actually killed the bill that would have stopped illegals from voting in Texas. And that's what I think the goal is this time. They're going to vote illegals all over the country. And Dave Phelan helped the Democrats do that. He killed election integrity. He made sure that I got impeached. That wasn't an accident. That was a deal with the Biden administration because I'd sued him 60 times. And so I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I got impeached this summer. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm actually glad I got impeached. And that sounds very strange. But it highlighted the disaster of the Texas House, of how corrupt they are, how they don't follow due process, how they're controlled by the Democrats. Do you think Dave Phelan sent that train? I think he did. Let's let the engine get by.
Go, Helen!
I hope it's not
Go, Helen!
it's probably a really long one, too. Yeah, I think I can talk. It's hard to follow a train. So the Democrats figured out we can do this every session. We just go, whoever will give us the most stuff will make the speaker. And what happens is, so Dave, he has his 65 votes. Now he only needs 10 Republicans because he needs 76 votes out of 150 to be speaker. He goes to Dr. Bond and he says, hey, you want to be chairman of appropriations? Sure, I'll take that. I'll vote for you. Dustin Burrows, you want to be chair of calendars? You'll control all the legislation going on in the House floor. We won't let Brian Harrison's stuff on. You won't, but you'll have control of everything. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. I'll vote for you. So he doles out the top committee chairmanships to Republicans. And then all these other Republicans, not Brian, not others like Nate Schatzline and Tony Tinnerholt, but all these Republicans join in and say, yeah, we want to have committee assignments. We want our bills passed. We want the money from the Austin lobby. And that's how it's worked. And my impeachment, I think, highlighted what to the whole state and to the entire country how the Texas House is corrupt and how they're controlled by the Democrats. And all you have to do, and I say the Biden administration came to the Texas Democrats and said, we want Paxton impeached. He sued us 60 times. And you say, well, how do you know that? Well, was it a random thing that out of the 4 attorneys on the General Investigating Committee controlled by the Republicans, that 2 of them came from the Biden Department of Justice? You think that was an accident? You remember my attorney saying there are no coincidences in Austin? He got that from me. So it was not a coincidence that there were 2, just like it's not a coincidence that the parliamentarian came from the Biden, the Obama White House. So what I want to tell you, and I feel a little bit like I'm copying Britt, but I really do have a story similar to how she ended. I started watching this series on Apple TV called Franklin. Michael Douglas, anybody here seen any of it? Well, he's not the greatest actor, but this series has been interesting. We just started. He's rowed aboard to France. He is trying to convince the French to support America because they're in trouble. And Washington has just walked out of New York. He lost New York to the British. And he just wrote a letter saying, I think it's almost up. I think we're almost done. And Franklin can't get a meeting with the king. No one will really talk to him. He's just there hoping and praying that somehow he can get help from the French. So I'm only 2 episodes in, so I don't actually know how it's going to turn out, but I think I know how it turns out. The same way it turned out in Brooke's story, which is somehow, some way, by the grace of God, had to be. Everything was against. Washington had 3,000 men left against the greatest power in the world, maybe the greatest power we'd ever known. And look where we are now. And so what I want to say to you is I think that we have that same opportunity today. It may look like the odds are stacked against us, and I say they are because I tell people all the time, we are at a huge disadvantage because the other side is not limited by the same things we are. What do I mean by that? We are limited by the truth, we are limited by the law, and we are limited by decency. And they don't play by those rules. So they have a lot more ability to do things to us that we won't do to them. And yet, with all the odds against us, and looking at prosecuting our president, they've tried to prosecute me over and over, and they continue to try. And if you speak out for anything that they oppose, they come after you. But despite that, I think that there's a place in history, there's a story that hopefully when we're gone, that we'll be in. There'll be a Michael Douglas, he won't be here, but somebody like him, hopefully a better actor. We'll play some of us and talk about how we had no hope. And yet the people of Texas, a small group of people, this is not a big group, this is the kind of group that can make the difference. She talked about, what was that, 6 people? There's more than 6 people here. Yeah. And I hope that when the story's written, when the documentary is done, the stories about Texas and how we saved our state and how we saved our country. And so I want to encourage you to go out, not just vote. You got a month to go before early voting. Early voting May 20th and the election's May 28th. That's not a lot of time, and I'm not asking for a lot of sacrifice, but I'm asking you to call every single one of your friends in the district, every one of your family members, and I want you to harass them until they're sick of you. And make sure that they vote. And they will, because they'll get sick of you if you keep calling. And do not be afraid, because you're doing this you're not just doing this for Helen. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for your grandkids. You're doing it for our country. You're doing it so that someday they're going to do the doc. Yes. And guess what? Whatever you do, there's going to be a record of it. We're going to know whether you did it or not. Yep. So you're on the hook. So, Helen?
Go Helen!
Let's go win. God bless.
All right, guys. Thank you all for coming out. I think if Ken is up for it, we might let you guys line up and take a few pictures. We are going to kind of push you through, so if you want to hand us your camera, your stuff to hold, we'll snap a few pictures for you. All right? Thank you again.
Nice meeting you.